Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In this video I want to show you guys a textbook high MMR standard game. Now, ever since that the Raiden has been added, I know that there's been a lot of aggro and defensive games, as the Raiden seems to shine in lower range engagements and kind of lacks the range to be able to compete in standard. But every now and then you will still get these long range games, and they haven't really changed that much, with the hero of those games oftentimes being the arclights. Now, in this game, I'm going to be up against one of 401's best players, Play Archer, and I decide to pick an elite spec pack with Mustangs and Crawlers. The main reason that I picked this pack is because of the arclights. Level 2 arclights are so powerful in the early game that you can kind of get away with it, even if the standard pack or the pack that you get isn't necessarily the best. Mustangs are not known to be very powerful in the early game, and usually they tend to be much better if you get them at level 2, and usually somewhere in the mid to late game is when they start to shine. And so here definitely they won't be the most useful against the opponent's Crawlers, Stormcallers and Arclights. But I do have again the advantage here with my 2 level 2 Arclights, and the Crawlers are pretty nice as well. I decided to play standard because I've gotten more confident in my standard game ever since the end of last patch, and with the whole Arclight Worm comp, I think that I have a pretty decent understanding of how these mirror matchups go. And yeah, that's why sometimes you will see me going back to this type of playstyle. Also because we've been seeing a lot of Raiden, and so if I can avoid it, sometimes it's nice to switch things up a bit. Now let's go and see how round 1 goes. Pretty standard stuff. My opponent, by the way, is a Typhoon specialist, so we'll have to look out for that round 3 power spike. And here, I mean, it's going to come down to how well these Arclights can clear and how well the Stormcallers can hit my arcs. For now, though, it seems that the Crawlers have done their job, and they're preventing my Arclights from dying instantly. Now, Mustangs here are struggling, but at least they're providing some additional chaff up against those Stormcallers. Left side looks like it will be losing. We do manage to kill the Arclight there, but the Stormcaller will probably take care of it. Yeah, there it goes, and right side should be kind of similar. Maybe, just maybe, we can get rid of another Storm, but yeah, round 1 won't be going our way. The nice bit for me, though, is that I do have a lot of hit points there, still sitting at around 5k, whereas my opponent only started with 3,800. Round 2. Heavy armor shows up, good item in the long run, especially if we do keep these giants, potentially Worm or maybe a Melter in mind. But with the missile strike being offered and my opponent having Stormcallers, I thought, you know, it's not bad to pick up. I get it early, it has a low cooldown, so I get it multiple times during the game, and it might allow me to gain some tempo here early on while I'm struggling, as I am elite spec, and so, yeah, units are expensive. And so round 2, always awkward as elite. The only thing I could have really done is maybe 1 Crawler, 1 Mustang, but I don't want to play Mustang in standard and feed his Arclights, so instead I just buy the Crawlers, which will eventually feed his Arclights as well, but for now, they won't get one-shot because my opponent only has level 1 Arclights, and either way, I do need chaff, even if they give significantly more experience at level 2. So pretty standard stuff here. The nice thing about my Mustang is that I don't have to worry too much. Keep in mind that I took defense enhancement here on round 2, and the reason I did that is because Mustangs with the first defense enhancement will survive a shot from Arclights at same level. And so they become much better even just as chaff against the Arclights because the level 1s need to shoot them multiple times. It's a neat little trick that you can keep in mind whenever you are facing Arclights with Mustang and you don't want to sell out of them immediately. Round 3, we get intensive training, which can be good, but as a lead spec, you know, if I look at how this game will progress, it will probably just be me buying more Arclights. I'm buying them at level 2 anyway. The Giants I would buy are level 2 anyway. So, you know, I'd rather take the armor, make sure that I can mirror in case we do end up into Giants. And yeah, I mean, that's all from me. Round 3, I sell out of 1 Mustang there, and I get the range on the Arclights on round 3 and add 2 more. My opponent here gets his Typhoons, instantly levels them because he picked up the intensive training, and gives them the heavy armor he picked up on round 2. This will be a problem. I won't be able to kill these this round. I am quite sure about that. And so I will need to buy something or get something next turn to be able to deal with it. Lucky for us, next turn will be 3 units, as we did not see them in round 2 or 3. And so maybe the game will gift us a Scorpion, or maybe even a Melter, something along those lines to be able to take these out. And even if we don't get it, we can always sell something and then potentially buy a Scorpion or any other unit ourselves. But yeah, right side looking good. The range on the arclights is performing very well. But left side, yeah, those typhoons are just a little bit too much to handle. But it's no big problem. We managed to pick up a round. Our opponent is already getting close to 3k hit points, and we still have a good slab remaining ourselves. And we enter round 4. What will the cards give us? It will be 3 units, and there's a bunch of good options here. Sabertooth could be considered, but in standard I don't like this unit so much, as it only gets up to, I believe, 135 range. That is without the tower bonus, but that is simply too low compared to other units you will see in standard, and so I'm not really feeling this, as I will probably have to sell out of it. There's Overlord available as well, but same thing, it struggles in long range games, and so Melting Point just seems like the thing to pick. And level 2 Melter on round 4 with the heavy armor that I had, this is hard to kill. 120,000 hit points. And my opponent here, I think, makes a mistake, because he picks up the Sabertooth. Now, it is a higher value pack, of course, but yeah, the Sabertooth will fall off, and they certainly won't be able to compete with this level 2 armor Melter. That is for absolutely certain. And he also has the Typhoons, which are not ideal in long-range engagements, which means that he now gets himself into a game where he has basically 3 units that won't be able to stay on his board in the long run because they don't scale well. And that is hard to sell out of, and you have only got so many deployments each round. So I think here he should have just picked the Melter, expecting me to pick that up as well. And even if I don't, again, this is hard to kill. Even if it's not good on a given turn, or on this round 4, it will still probably just win the round purely because of how tanky it is. Now my opponent does gain some tempo, obviously, on the right side, as I did not have money for another Melter. And I decided to range this instantly. So right side, it does fall this time. And with the debuff here and those leveled Stormcallers from my opponent, he might just be able to kill this giant Melter, but it's still a pretty tanky unit here. Taking out some Stormcallers and Arclights, getting rid of the Saber as well, killing some Fangs, and that drastically diminishes the amount of damage I will take, as there's only an Arclight and a couple Stormcallers remaining. And keep in mind, this is one of the better rounds he will get, since the Sabertooth will start falling off as I get more Arclights, more Arclight levels, more techs like Elite Marksman, and I managed to get more more melting points, rather, on the board. I do have 2 Fangs here, by the way, for those of you that are wondering about anti-air. I am a bit weak to Wasps, but with the amount of hit points I have, Wasps would not be hard to deal with. I've got Mustangs unlocked already, so I'm willing to just wait it out. If my opponent wants to get into Wasp, I can always either match, or I can get back the Mustangs, as I'm at no threat of dying here within 1 round. Both of us pick up the Smoke Bomb. I decided to be a bit more greedy. My opponent puts it more in the front. I probably should have shielded further forward, expecting this. And I decide to add another Melter here to the board. That is the only thing I do, so I do miss out on a deployment, but I'm willing to do that to be able to get all of this on the board, get those levels on the arcs, get the temp range, importantly, and make sure that I am somewhat defended here from the smoke. But yeah, you can see I should have put this further forward, as my arclights are already inside. Luckily for me, the melting point does have that range, so it should be able to stay out of it. And right side will be completely fine, of course, as there's absolutely nothing there that is able to get rid of this normal level 2 melting point. There is a bunch of chaff remaining there, though. Those Fangs, very annoying. The question is going to be, will this melting point here with the 130 meter range be able to lock on? It seems like it isn't quite able to do so, or at least my melting point prevails, locks on first, and is able to get rid of the melting point on the left. Right side still looking wonderful. And even though the level 2 Stormcallers pack a punch, it will not quite be enough to get rid of this giant. And I am very fortunate here, as this Stormcaller remains inside of the shield, and so we get both shields this turn. Huge value. And we strike back yet again, and that will send our opponent down to sub 3k hit points. As we enter round number 6, more free units show up. Farseer, Rhino, Scorpion, Tarantula. Now Tarantula here, no good. We don't want that in standard. Scorpion, I mean, can be fine with siege mode, but I'm already committed to melting point. So really the only thing I can consider is Farseer. It is the highest value next to the Rhino. And it's easier to sell than the Rhino. So I'm probably just going to go for more resources here and then tech the arclights and maybe buy another melter or maybe buy more chaff, but there's no real need for me to add anything to the board here. There is maybe a line for me to go Farseer and tech into Farseer, as it would preemptively deal with any wasps, and I mean Farseer with range and EMP can definitely be good. But yeah, I decided to take and sell here, as I will simply click EMP on my arclights, which is still a very powerful tech. Very cheap too, I think it's only 200 cost. And with the amount of scaling you will get from the levels and the elite marksman, it is just such an annoying tech to deal with. Very good in the mirror as well, very good against the melters. And we just triple tech. So 2 more techs picked up. We get the electromagnetic shot, we get the elite marksman, and suddenly we're up 2 techs up against my opponent, and on top of that I've got the level advantage as well. And most of this all stems right from the early game, getting those arclights early, also being elite spec, so making good use out of our level 2 deployments, and then not having to sell out of useless units means that the arclights here have been doing pretty well, getting experience, and so that lead will probably help us win this matchup. The Rhino there in the middle gets splashed by EMP, and well, while EMP disables techs, it also slows units quite a bit, 40%. So yeah, you could just see how this level 3 arclight here will be taking out that level 2 Rhino after also taking out the arclight in the middle. So much value being had. Opponent here does not have temp range, while I do. Did manage to range his melting points, but without the temp range and without those arclight levels, I think we should be able to come out ahead. We'll have to see how this works out. Melt does lock on though, so looks like I will be losing out on the left side, sadly. Right side winning. Still had to deal with the smoke this turn, so that's probably why I lost. Melter though now gets caught inside of the smoke itself, and by the looks of it, we'll have to travel all the way through it lengthwise to be able to get to my melter, which should give me the upper hand. Plus, again, I have 1 arclight left alive, and with the EMP, we managed to secure yet another round as we enter round number 7. Additional deployment slot here picked up for my opponent, and I will do the same. The super supply is way too late for that. It will only pay off on round 10, so we will just get the additional deployments. Also quite nice on elite, because I had to skip some deployments on late game. It doesn't really hurt being able to get more crawlers, being able to get more arclights, especially with the triple tech. Simply very valuable to get more of those, and so that's what we do. We pick up 2 more. We mass recruit on the left tower, and we get 2 more crawlers in the back and decide to click loose formation. Loose formation is still very powerful against arclights, and with how powerful arclights are, you do tend to see a lot of boards relying on them. And yeah, I still like this tech quite a bit. And we'll test our opponent. Now, opponent kind of realizes he is in a bit of a pickle, perhaps, clear-wise. Also being behind in the arclight mirror. Does manage to pick up elite marksman, but it goes for some stormcallers as well, grabbing that range this turn. And once I see this, I know, okay, the only thing that he has on his board available that is good into loose formation potentially would be the incendiary on the stormcallers, and that is something I'll have to keep in mind going into next turn. We still have the EMP advantage though, and you can see it's putting in absolute work. as round 7 looks much more dominant than the last one, and this will be quite a bit of damage. Not quite enough, I believe, but starting to mount as, yeah, opponents here will fall below 1,000. And round 8 could be the final round for us. Bunch of good items being offered here. Tank production line picked up for Play Archer. Good item on the Giants. Pretty effective as well against the Melters. But the laser sight, I think, just a little bit more valuable. Not as expensive. And will allow us to win that mirror as well, as we'll have more range. Opponent decides to grab another Melter in the middle. Pick up a second tech, Electromagnetic Barrage. And as expected, goes for the Incendiary Bomb on the Stormcallers. And so this round, the only thing I was thinking about is, you know, he still has the loose formation problem, which is something he has to address this turn. The only way to do that is to get Incendiary, so let's try and play around that. I try and shield a bit further forward. I didn't want to do it on the line because I was afraid it would maybe break because of a potential EMP, but maybe I should have put it further forward as this oil will land and get ignited. But we put a bunch of missile interceptors all across the board. We have 6 for now. Maybe we can even add the 7th one. We add more crawlers. One with a distraction beacon in the middle to distract these 3, and then 2 on the sides to distract the incendiary stormcallers. I was expecting this, so I was just thinking, well, let's make some puddles of fire here on the right. It might kill these crawlers. That'll help us out as well. And this way, the first salvos won't be too much of an issue. And yeah, we add another missile interceptor there, so we have a grand total of 7. And you can see it's pretty effective. Some of the fire does land, but it's only really a problem for the crawlers if it lands consistently. Like here with the oil, if this gets ignited, which it definitely will, the crawlers will burn. But on the right side, you can see how much of a problem the crawlers are creating. Some of the fire is landing now as it is closer to the stormcallers and harder to intercept. But it still looks like we'll be coming out ahead. Melter has locked on the left. The EMP is still putting in massive amounts of work. And yeah, the tank production item there won't be quite enough. As we manage to secure round 8, and with that, secure the game. 2 Melters alive, bunch of arclights. You can see the levels have started to rank up quite a bit as we have a level 5 arclight in the middle. And that is how we close out the game. This was a pretty textbook standard game. This hasn't really changed as we moved into Season 2. Arclight still the best shaft clear unit for its cost. Manages to scale along with the rest of the board. Able to get up to things like 173 range. Of course, we have the bonus from the tower. But there aren't many shaft clear units that are able to do that. Has the EMP available too, which is just so useful in almost any scenario, especially for the cost, the low cost on the Arclight. And yeah, utilizing our crawlers effectively, recognizing the threat of incendiary bomb. And that's just how we close out the game. The one useful drop we got was the Melter to be able to kill those typhoons. We definitely got good tempo out of it. I think our opponent made a mistake not picking it themselves. And either way, if we didn't get the melting point, we likely would have been able to play something like Scorpion and then maybe Siege Scorpion, or we could have been able to sell and buy something like a Melter with the money we would get. So yeah, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. Check me out on Twitch if you want to see me play live. And with that being said, take care guys and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.